Hey, how you doing? Justin here. We're up to pattern 4 now of the 3-note per string system for the major scale. I'm sure you've learned pattern 1, pattern 2, pattern 3 already, and you're confident with them. You can combine them together, you're making music with it, and you know the drill. You're ready for pattern 4, so let's get stuck into that close-up. Here we are for pattern 4 of the G major scale, 3 notes per string. Pattern 4 will start on the 4th note of the G major scale, which is the note C, which is found here at the 8th fret of the thickest string. So we're going to play 8th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret. On the 5th string, 9th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret. Same pattern on the 4th string, 9, 10, 12. Onto the 3rd string we'll play 9, 11, 12. On the 2nd string, 1st finger will sneak up a fret and we'll play 10, 12, 13. And then we move on to the thinner string, 10, 12, 14. Okay, so not so many nice little patterns here. It's a little bit more awkward to visually remember this pattern, but again, it'll be a bit of practice. It'll especially help if you see it around the shape. If you're used to pattern 4 of the regular G, the cage system major scale, you'll probably find most of it fairly logical. Anyway, one more time through that. So 8, 10, 12, then 9, 10, 12, 9, 10, 12, 9, 11, 12, then 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, 14. Definitely recommend that you practice it just up a little bit first of all, really making sure that you get your scales correct. Okay, don't make any mistakes if you can help it when you're learning your scales, because they'll come and bite you in the bum later on. Each time you make a mistake, you're going to have to play it correctly 20, 30 times to be able to get rid of that mistake from your code. Okay, now fingering options here. That one's probably going to, well, could be 1, 3, 4. Again, if you're going to pattern 1, 2, 4, which is the logical fingering on that string, fingering 1, 2, 4 on the thicker string seems to make the most sense to me. 1, 2, 4 for those ones. Now the next 2 strings, when I did the bulk of my practice on this stuff 20 years ago, I used 1st finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger. Okay, and then swap to 1st, 2nd, 4th, sometimes 1st, 3rd, 4th on the thinner string. Now, I've got a couple of issues with that. Now, first of all, I've decided that I don't really like doing 3rd and 4th fingers, so I avoid it where I can, and I use 2nd and 3rd fingers instead. Now, that seems to work pretty well for me most of the time. It fits in with most of my pentatonic fingerings, which is a real common way for me to use the G major scale would be as A Dorian, which is, it fits in with the bluesy sort of stuff that I would play more often than kind of a rocky thing. So I've decided that I'm going to use this fingering 1. So after these 1, 2, 4 here, I move to 1, 2, 3 on the 3rd string, 1, 2, 3 again on the 2nd string, and 1, 2, 4 on the thinner string. Now that's not the way I always did it, and sometimes I still find myself reverting to this and going 1, 3, 4, and I kind of can't help it, and it's the fingering that I would most commonly use for regular cage system major scale as well. So it's only really in the last kind of year that I've been playing around with these scales and really thinking about the fingering a bit more logically, rather than just like, well, the fingers should be nice and close together. It's like, well, what? Yeah, but how do I use it in practice? And it's only when I started thinking about that it's much more likely. It feels nicer to me to use that. So you need to try it and find out what works best for you, but that would be my suggested fingering, is that using the 2nd finger, 3rd finger, 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Again here, coming back to that root note. So starting on this one, if you play it always that way, you tend to hear it with the C. It's kind of how you'll hear the scale, and which is cool because it's kind of a C Lydian sound. That note there gives it that kind of sound. Okay, but really, if you're practicing it as a scale, you want to be thinking of it in terms of the G, because it's the G major scale. That's what you're thinking. If you want to think modes, it's a different process. At this point, while you're learning these, I would suggest you thinking them as G major scale and hearing G and seeing this shape around this chord. That's one of the reasons why I think sometimes learning the cage system is a better thing to do first, because it'll really help you develop that relationship between the scale shapes and the chord shapes in your musical mind. Okay, so for this one, I think you should just skip over it, move straight to learning the next pattern. There's definitely no point in practicing making music with this scale at all. Not. Okay, you know the drill already, right? You've been through this 3 times. Make sure that you spend some time making music with pattern 4, combining it with pattern 3, then pattern 2, then pattern 1, combining them, moving between the different ones. There's plenty of lessons over on the website on how to combine the scales and different options that you can use to do that. So get stuck into that, have fun with it before you learn pattern 5. I know you're going to, aren't you? Hey, I'll see you for plenty more lessons very soon. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.